What's going on, Dungeon Dwellers? Welcome back to Dave's Dungeon and Spooktober 2024. I am, as always, the host with the most, the one, the only, Dungeon Master Dave, bringing you another episode. Now, I remembered what was wrong from the first episode, so forgive me, Dungeon Dwellers. I forgot to do you an intro. I'm sorry. But it's a little hard to do an intro when you're trying to remember everything and pull off a bit as soon as you open an episode as well. So, again, sorry, but was trying to do something. Forgive me. And secondly, I know this episode's a little on the late side, but I think we're going to end up doing something different even tonight, because tonight won't start as much fun as the rest of them. You see, I'm not doing a fun voice, and I'm not doing some silly thing, some silly bit, because this movie really did mean something in a way that not a lot of these films do. And it's weird because we don't often get them. But this movie might have changed the way we need to look at the way we do horror. The way we use our art, so to speak. I want to give this movie its full rundown. I want to give it its full credit, its due. Just for starters, director Robert Morgan, writers Robin King, and Robert Morgan, the director himself. Kudos to you and the actors Aisling Franciosi and Caitlin Springall, both Irish. One's Irish-Italian, the other one's Irish actors. I want to give y'all all your kudos and your weight. But this movie did something to me as a person, but more importantly, as an artist, as a creator myself. It impacted the way I thought about my own work and the ways in which I'm comfortable admitting I might have let the magic of what I was doing destroy parts of my own life. I don't know. I wouldn't say I let it destroy anything terribly important, but at the same time, that's not to say it hasn't come with its own costs. And too often we don't talk about these costs, and we don't talk about the weight and the impact of what we're asking from people. And it's hard to fathom, and it's hard to even put in words, hence the struggle. Hence why it's not going to be as fun tonight. And now I promise we will get to jokes and we will get to the lighter bits. But here in the beginning, after I read the plot, I want to talk about it a little bit, because this movie encapsulates what it means to be an artist in such a important and unique way that I think everybody needs to see. And given how it ends, it only screams what so many of us feel inside. So let's talk about it as a film. The movie begins centered around one Ella Blake, who is a stop-motion animator. And I want to talk about this for a second as well. Ella, and the way we've all decided to talk about her, really has sort of created a problem for me, because everything I read about her is that she's struggling with her demons. No. She isn't struggling with her demons. Ella is struggling to find her own voice, her own identity, her own creative playground. And she lives under such oppression. Whether it's her mother, whether it's the conditions she lives under, she is oppressed. Whether it's that idiot boyfriend she has, she is oppressed. And she is just struggling to find where her own voice is. Because it's all about the mother's vision and the mother's overbearing exactness, her creative vision and her control. It's always about the mother. Suddenly, though, mom gets sick and leaves Ella in a space where she's confused, but at the same time, she's getting her first taste of freedom and her own first sense of self-expression and self-creativity. She gives herself to this in a way that's so refreshing. And like all artists do, we retreat to it. We abandon everything else and seek only it. And she does as well in a way that is refreshing. You know, you hear about artists going to these luscious retreats, and it's like, no, I want to go to the cabin in the woods and hide away and do it. Or the little quiet apartment where nobody else is. Her first creative attempt after her mom's sickness veers into the darker parts of her imagination and awakens her inner child, long repressed by her mother's creative control. You see, why would she reach for such darkness in the beginning? Yeah, she was already feeling a sort of way before what is the specter of her inner child shows up. Not understanding what's happening to her, Ella and her macabre puppet film become a real-life battleground for her own sanity. Night after night, her creation comes to life, seeking the very hands that gives them life, threatening Ella's very own life, like all great artwork really should. And I gotta say, I'd say that jokingly. I don't say that in all honesty. I too often, so many great artists have been taken long before their time. Long before they should have been lost to us. And yet, they're gone. Why? Because this is hard and the world doesn't make it any easier. The danger here is that we feel this great drive, and I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, but we feel this great inner feeling when we set out to be artists that the world doesn't take care with. You know, it doesn't do a good job. it doesn't watch what it does with artists, I would say. It has a tendency to want what artists are creating and not care about what artists themselves are worth. What artists themselves are, how important they are. Because without them, you don't get the thing that you want. It's like caring about a goose that lays golden eggs because you want the golden eggs. Sure, you can care about the golden eggs all day long, but if you don't care about the goose at some point, you're going to lose your ability to have golden eggs. Just the same as some of you who are probably students understand. If you write the paper trying to get an A, but don't ever do any of the research, well, you're definitely not going to get that A. It's not going to happen. It will not happen. Why? Because you didn't do the work. You didn't do the things it needed to do. Just like taking care of the goose. You loved those golden eggs, but you didn't do the work. It's the same with artists, man. It's the same with us. Sure. Everybody enjoys what we bring them. But we do a terrible job. Of taking care of them and their mental health. I should know. I happen to be one of them. And so that's why I'm doing this one a little differently. You see, I've spent enough time in the trenches as an artist and as a creator that I understand a bit more of the dangers that we face. I came up with a list of the different ways in which artistry itself, the ways in which we create, threaten us and can get out of hand. The first thing I want to talk to you about is obsession. And it really is the first thing and the only thing, because a lot of us use obsession. Obsession isn't always a bad thing, and a lot of us use it. And I understand personally being obsessed with my work because I enjoy it. I like what I do. And as you can see from Ella in the film, she doesn't not enjoy stop motion. She really does enjoy what she does. It's just not good to be so drawn in. Sure, you can enjoy something and devote yourself to it and give yourself over to it and really dedicate all your waking work time to something. But by God, please do not dedicate all hours. You will burn yourself out. You will start stretching your mental health, and you will almost curse yourself. It's a very powerful blessing to have a drive and a passion that stems from an obsession. I feel like I have an obsession of my own. My own work is obsessive. But there are times when I have to put it down and go, okay, enough is enough. You cannot keep pushing. And Ella is that perfect. Is it too much or is it enough? Is it too much or is it enough? Until it's entirely too much. And a lot of that stems from ambition. I myself, I would love to join what I call the pantheon of great writers and what I call the pantheon of horror writers, even. You know, the greatest of the greats. Stephen King, looking at you, sitting on top of the mountain. I know that's ambition. I know that's a danger in and of itself. And I feel, Ella, I feel having a parent that is really, really, really good at this thing that you do and has a name made of her own. But you and I both know there's no way. There's no way. How do I even say it? Like, your mom has the name, not you. And you wanting to come in behind her and be like, no, Mom, it's my turn now. That's not the way things work. That's not the way this would ever work. You have to make a name for yourself. If you're ambitious, go out and get what you're worth. Go out and build it for yourself. But you can't be like, well, they have it. They did it. No, that's not how this works. It's just like with the A. Well, so-and-so made an A. Well, yeah, because so-and-so did the work. Well, so-and-so got the golden goose. Well, yeah, so-and-so takes care of the goose. You want these things, and it's not bad. But even they, because they are not in moderation, get out of control. They get out of hand. And then, because there's this little thing called pride that gets involved, it all gets out of hand when somebody tries to tell you something or correct you because you're trying to be something. And in trying to be something like, I am a writer, or I am an artist, or I am a creator, you're forgetting that comes with a task, that being a writer comes with writing, being an artist comes with painting, drawing, writing, doing. You have to do the thing in order to be the thing. It's got nothing to do with claiming you are the thing. But yet, when we get started, and even myself, when you get started, you're going, but I'm not. And the people who are trying to inspire you, for good or bad, for better or worse, go, no. You've written nothing, but yet you want to do this, you are this. Put it in your own head, and you do. You do. But then you're left with this sense of want, the sense of pride, as what I've taken to calling it. I am a writer, and that makes me want to do the thing, and do the thing well. And that then builds an ambition, and then that ambition builds the obsession. And so I've taken to working the steps that you need to take in order to safely and healthy, in a healthy way, do those things. But so many artists, so much of what I see today is not that way. It's not in a healthy way. It is stemming from a desire to not want to have your whole life be wrapped up in working until you die. And then having that sort of cascade and exacerbate around them, you know, because you have a drive and you have a passion, and these things are good. The ambition is good. Even some of the obsession is good. Being focused on what you should be focused on is very good. it's just the levels we take it to, the means we go to, the ends we reach for. They're not sustainable, and in a lot of ways, they're not what we needed in the beginning anyway. So often I'll meet an artist, or I'll find someone who I'm working with who has gotten lost. And I say that with no judgment, just all the love in my heart. But they've gotten lost because they're in the middle of this thing, and their work has become this forest in the middle of their life that they've built up around them. And they don't know how they got here, and they don't know how they're going to get, how they get back. They don't know the way, and because they didn't carefully do this, they don't know how to do it anymore. Weird, right? It happens. You get in a moment, you're doing it, and then you come back and you're going, what was I doing? Where was, like, the universe was like using me to take this thing for a ride, and now that I'm coming back to it with my rational brain that's breathing oxygen and has eaten something. But a lot of times your work will become this forest in your life. It will become this thing that sprouts up around you. And you either have to leave the forest and realize, oh, I'm in that place. And a Zen code for when you are lost, you must stop. You must find this place. This place is not lost. You are lost. You must find yourself within this place. And then in allowing this place and allowing it to tell you where it is and where you are within it, you may find your way. Zen code makes sense, right? But so much of our work is forgetting where we are, what we're doing, getting lost in this is fun, and that's fun, and this feels good to do, and that's yes. And just like Ella, for a little while, it's great. Until you wake up in the floor, covered in paint, and you've built a forest in your own bedroom. And this gets down to my final point. And this one's not for everybody, because it really has to do with how many of you have had something awful, and I mean truly awful, like getting dropped in hell happen in your lives. And for a little while, inner you, kid you, goes inside and hides for a little bit. Under the bed, in a secret little room that only you know about. But they go in there and they hide. And you know, well, you may not know, but in going inside and hiding, inner you represses for a little while. And after a time of repression, as you walk through physical hell and mental hell and emotional hell to whatever end, inner you sits inside and doesn't go through it. It hides from it. It goes, okay, no, can't deal. I'm the creative fun bit. I want to survive. And if I encounter this will be too much. So I need to not I need to not. Well, once you're like Ella and you get on the other side and you get to the freedom bit, little artist comes out of the hidey hole, comes out of the foxhole, comes out of the house and goes, "Yay, playtime." But then doesn't realize it's been through some shit. Doesn't realize that you, outer you, has been through the actual minefield and has experienced the hell that you had to walk. So, little by little, inner you takes in the pain that you've been feeling and the frustration and the emotional turmoil and the just anguish that you've been going through. And they get madder and they get madder and they get madder about it. Because they're going, well, why wasn't this not, why was this way? And why was it not done the right way? Why was it good for everybody over here and not okay for me? And so as they come out, they get angrier and angrier and angrier. And it's not teen you doing it. You know, teenage you who's angry about the whole world. The whole reason they're angry is because little you was angry when they went in. So, when you let these little inner childs out, when you fully go, okay, it's safe, come on out, they come out swinging sometimes, as we saw young Ella do. Why did she reach for dark? Why was it this, it's coming to get me, and it's like it's the world. It's because it's that inner fear. It's, well, this one thing was after me, so it's all after me. And so, my warning to you, young artists, people listening to me, whoever that is, the imaginary one of you that I think I'm talking to, you got to be careful when you go through all of this. You know, my own work has taught me two very, very, very valuable lessons that this movie is touching on really in depth. And the first 5 things I just mentioned are the dangers. They're if you're going to do this, you're going to have to face them one way or another. All of us do. All of us have. And it's not like there's not a healthy way to get over them. It's not like there's not a healthy way to surmount them, but you don't know what forces you're going to be expected to overcome until you've overcome them. It's sort of like climbing a mountain. You don't often think about the wind or the cold in the right way until you're up the mountain and you're shivering, or you're thinking about how to reduce wind drag to help you climb. It's different once you're in it. You understand what we're actually about, and less, oh, well, it's this and or that. No, you have to understand the problem. And so these 5 things, like I said, they may not sound like much of a problem to some people, but to others, they are the whole crux of, can you do it or can't you? Is it possible for you or not? So, this is a little bit of my own experience boiled down into 2 simple rules for any and all artists and creatives who themselves have found themselves in hell and have walked out or experienced pain and trauma in a large way. Number 1, if you're going to create, and I really mean it, if you're going to create from that place of pain and those traumas, you really should be prepared to revisit that trauma and those pains each and every time you go to create. It is so excruciating when every time you want to pick up a pen or a paintbrush, or you want to look at your work with such enthusiasm and you want to give yourself to it, but it's like crawling in a bathtub full of glass or a bed full of syringes and knives. It can be excruciating under no uncertain terms. And it's really up to you to decide that. You have to get comfortable with your pain if you're going to do that. You have to decide, well, I'm okay with this. This happened to me. I'm not so unnerved with this that I can't work with it, because it's really it's gonna meet you at work every day, and it's gonna say, hey Dave, hey trauma, hey anger, hey sadness, depression, whatever it is. So if it's been a problem in the past and you get ready to start, embarking on this creative process, and you start to find yourself not able to do it, and you find yourself going back to older emotions, like I'm getting mad, or I'm going back to this one time when I was really sad. This is why. It's your body's going, hey, you're a full container right now, Chief. You've got all this stuff from the past, and it's waiting. It's haunting you. It's waiting to jump out of the jar and get you. Yeah, it's been waiting this whole time. You've been in the horror movie the whole time. And so it's like, it's very important when you're doing this. Very important when you're doing this, to get comfortable with your pain if you're going to be creating. Because you don't know when you're going to encounter something. You don't know when you're going to embark on something that stirs it up. You don't know when a project will steer itself because you were hurt a certain way. It's all very important to the whole process. So I advise any aspiring creatives who, again, if you're real creative, you don't care what I say, but be kind to yourself and be your one advocate in this. Because whether you write something that transforms the pain or not, it can be so helpful if it does. It can be so impactful if it does, but you run a lot of risks in trying to pull it out and use it like silly putty when you yourself are still mending it, when you yourself are still bleeding and going, well, why is it all wet? Well, honey, darlings, creeps and ghouls, you're still hurt. You're still bleeding there. And until you're done, it's not safe to create from. And two, if you get ready to create and you find younger you has big feelings, sure, art can help. I don't want to run anybody off. Art's a great way to help. And look at me, I'm using it. But you do well not to just dump those raw emotions into your art. It's like a raw material. It's not as useful to just see raw iron out in the world and go, oh, this is metal. No, it doesn't look like that. It's not that useful. You do well to be present with yourself in those emotions, to sit with them and to understand why you feel the way you do and why you have the thoughts you have. And then return to creating and exploring that emotional space once you have better control and once you understand the footing. Once you understand, oh, I'm upset because of this one time when this one thing happened. If that's all it is, yeah, you need to understand that footing. But if it's more like with Ella's mom, where Ella's mom is gaslighting her sometimes, or is it her, and you're left wondering, and yet at the same time, you know for certain it's control. It's, well, no, your life is mine. It's, well, when does my life start? And all of that works together, you know? The parent isn't an island, and yet in the same time, we're not just a copy of them either. Now, are we? It's not as simple. So it's very important for you, and I really mean this. If you have hard feelings, if you've got heavy feelings, set in them. Give yourself time to normalize them, to adapt, to what we would call homogenize them, not homogenize, habituate them, to make them normal to you and not so wild and or crazy. You know, that way you can adaptively manipulate the emotions for the character. That way you can pull the pieces down and hammer them a little bit and use the emotion. If it's raw, if it's hot, if it's sparking and throwing fires everywhere, you can't use it. It's not as helpful. It'll cause the other parts to not be workable, because it'll be too hot for one thing or too cold for another. That's usually the way it always hammers out. But the one thing I do want to hammer home in all of this, because I think that's all I've got for the artistry, talking about the dangers of it for now. We'll talk a little bit more later. But the one final point I want to hammer home is you're your biggest advocate. You, as an artist, are the vision. You, as the artist, are the planner. You, as the artist, are the creator. And in all of that, I dare you, and I really can't stress this enough, to also be your advocate. To also be your self-care specialist. To also be there for yourself. Like, hey, if you were writing a list of everybody you liked, how far down the list would you get before you wrote your own name, or would you even write it? And us artists, we're in a dangerous spot, aren't we? Because we likely not even write our own name. You could give us 50 spots and we wouldn't likely write our own name. Yeah. It's not so fun being an artist, but that's why we have such unique visions. That's why we see the world the way we do. So, lovelies, wonderful darlings, dark children who are full of magic. Be kind to yourselves. Take risks. Take chances. Sure. Do it for you. Do it for the art. But always remember that it's not worth sacrificing yourself over. I would know. You get told, hey, how much longer are you thinking about living? Oh, this long? Yeah, don't. You gotta worry. You gotta get told, oh, okay, well, maybe I need to rethink some things, and then your whole life comes down around your ears. And then you're going, well, I don't want to be the cow. Well, I don't want to be the farmer because it's killing me to be the farmer. And I don't want to be the cow. I can't be the slave through all of this. So let me be the product. Let me be the milk. So let me sell my art. You can't just summon the magic because you want to. You can't just fork lightning because you said words. It's not that simple. You have to mean it when you do magic, like we're doing, like artists do. You have to mean it. And it's like, you can't just say it and not mean it. And too many people think, well, I'll just do. No, you won't just do. A lot of the best of us have gotten up and tried, and less than 1% of 1% of us have their name written on it. And yet, it's doable. You just really, really gotta want it. And as long as you do it in a healthy way, as long as you do it in a measured way, you'll get there eventually. But so much of what we see in Ella's journey and what I've seen in my own and other artists' journeys, it's so hard to keep whatever you're doing measured. So to all my fellow artists out there, know I love you very much. Know I'm thinking about you. And know I'm hoping that you are taking care of yourselves. That you have championed for yourself and put your sword on your own shoulder and gone, no, I'm not going to ask anybody else to save me. I've got this. And are doing what you need to do and making sure that you are okay in the end. But enough of that. I didn't want this whole thing to be, take care of yourself, artist. I did actually write some funny stuff. But I don't know if I want to do it. I've already talked at you 45 minutes. And I really do hope you see this film. It's very serious, and it inspired me to want to have a more serious discussion with you. I do have jokes. I just don't feel they're appropriate. Huh. That's a first. And that's another reason why this episode is super late. For those of you who are wondering, yeah, it's not just tech reasons this time. Although, yeah, we had those too. Seems like every time I turn this thing on, it has another tech issue. But I will say, whatever strain Ella's on, send me 14 of them. They're terrific. For those of you who know, you know. But I think that's long enough. Dungeon dwellers and ladies and gentlemen, creeps and ghouls. I hope you go see Stopmotion, right now available on Shudder. And I hope that you will stick around, because on October 7th we're watching Abigail. I think this one's available on Peacock. If it's not, it's available VOD on Prime. You can rent it directly. Then on October the 9th, we're going to be watching In a Violent Nature, another one directly on Shudder. Followed by October the 11th, When Evil Lurks, another Shudder original. So again, as you can see, we're covering pretty much everything Shudder's got that, well, again, I don't even want to make that kind of claim. It's not everything they've got. They've got 800 different movies on there. We're never going to get through that many. Make sure you go check them out. Make sure you go watch. When I'm not suggesting movies, maybe go poke around and find you something to watch. But anyways, that's going to do it, Dungeon Dwellers. I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe for more. I hope to see you next time around the fire. But until then, night, night. Sleep tight. Don't let the boogeyman bite. Sweet dreams.